For those of you, who are joining us for the first time, it's a webinar, your camera's off, you're on mute, but definitely put all of your questions in chat throughout. And just to introduce myself, I'm Kira Colburn, head of platform at Workbench. And for those new to Workbench, we're a VC based here in New York City. We invest in seed rounds in enterprise startups, including some names you've probably heard before, like Cockroach Labs, Spring Health, Catalyst, Fire Hydrant, and many more. And actually, most of our team comes from the large enterprise world. So we really know the inner workings of the go-to-market process. And that's really the number one thing we work on with our portfolio companies and founders day in and day out. And that's why we launched this Masterclass series with founders, operators, and other executives to give their top tactical playbooks. So we are so lucky today to have David Politis. He's the founder of BetterCloud, and he's going to be sharing his top 5 battle-tested and very practical leadership tactics. So David has over 25 years of experience, 12 years at the helm of BetterCloud. He's achieved, hundreds and millions of ARR, hired thousands of people, raised from top-tier VCs. But as we all know, with the high highs come some super low lows. So he's survived some macro downturns and some very scary company pivots. But I promise that he's going to be making the next hour very jam-packed with tactics, anecdotes. And for anyone who has ever heard David speak before, he is super high energy. He gives the brute honesty and has tons of great stories. So I hope this is your most productive hour of the day and definitely the least boring. So yes, let's make this interactive. Put your questions in chat. And David, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and present here. Okay, everyone. Kira, thank you so much for that introduction. Like Kira mentioned, I have a lot to cover today. I am going to try to make this interactive. I'm going to try, I mentioned in my LinkedIn post when I was promoting this, that I'm going to try something a little bit different today, and to make it really, really interactive throughout. So with that, let me quickly introduce you to myself. So my name is David Politis. I've spent 20 plus years operating, investing, advising, and just talking to people in the enterprise tech space. So my operating career has been across 3 companies. Vocalocity was one of the first ever cloud PBXs in the world. So cloud PBX, cloud-based phone system for businesses. You would know companies like RingCentral, 8x8, Dialpad. Vocalocity was one of the first in 2005 to build a fully cloud PBX multi-tenant running over the public internet. And I had an opportunity to run that business really from about 6 months out of college. A long story of what happened, but I was a marketing assistant. Everyone at the company got fired. Me and one engineer were left, made me CEO, made that engineer CTO. And so we ran that business up to about 20 million or so of ARR. And ultimately that company was acquired by Vonage, and it became Vonage's commercial offering. I went from there to a company called Cloud Sherpas. Cloud Sherpas was one of the first ever cloud consulting companies in the world, actually Google Cloud's first and largest partner for many years, and got to see the enterprise migration to cloud there. That business got to hundreds of millions of revenue and was ultimately acquired by Accenture, and became Accenture's cloud computing division. And then I got the idea for BetterCloud while at Cloud Sherpas. BetterCloud, we created the first ever SaaS management platform, helping IT manage and secure their SaaS applications, and started that company, ran that company for about 12 years, got to 70 million or so of ARR, and ultimately sold that company to Vista, the private equity firm. Stayed on for a year, and then a year ago stepped back and into a chairman role. But since then, I've been spending a lot of time with earlier stage companies, and all for the most part in enterprise SaaS, making investments, being an advisor. Actually, I just launched a podcast interviewing CEOs of software companies. Actually, I'm starting to interview CEOs of other companies as well. The QR code there is to the Spotify page if you want to listen. First episode went live with Nick Mehta, CEO of Gainsight, yesterday. So that's been my experience, And in all of that, I believe a lot in giving back to the community. And there's a lot of things I wish I knew 20 years ago that I have tried to share with the community, and Workbench has been an amazing partner in that, given their community and the scale of their community. And so I'm really excited to be here today, because I think that doing it in this format, I'm hopeful that I can really get a lot across, in this type of format. The something I did when I took a break, so a year ago, when I took a step back from operating for the first time in 2 decades, I actually sat down and wrote a document. It's a Google document, 60 plus pages, public doc. I'll share the link at the end of this. But I wrote this document with the lessons that I learned over the last 20 years. And like Kira mentioned, it's ups and downs. And actually, most of the lessons, frankly, are learned from the downs. And it's a bunch of lessons. It's everything from fundraising to go to market, to how do you manage your team, to your own role as a CEO and how you evolve over time. So it covers a lot. And honestly, I kind of would love to do one of these and cover all those lessons. It'll take me, a whole day. And so when we were discussing this particular session, we decided we're going to try to make it tight on the 5 things that we think really resonate almost regardless of size and scale and stage. And the feedback that we've gotten from this this document has really been really positive, and it feels good actually to put this out there. It's really a labor of love. I mean, it took me, I think I locked myself in a room for like 3-4 days to just get the first set down of all the ideas. So anyway, I'm hopeful that today, as I take you through this, that you can take away, honestly, just even if you take away one thing that you go use at your company, I think that's worth the hour. Hopefully you take away more than one, but that's my goal for today. So let me just start here, because especially with this kind of audience, I want to understand who I'm speaking to. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to launch this poll, which everyone should see on their screen now. And it's really 2 questions. One, what's your role? And the second question is, how many people are at your company? And again, the purpose of this for me is so just as I go through this, I know the people that I'm speaking with. So I'll give everyone a second here to fill out the poll, and I'll show you the results so everyone gets a sense of who's on here. Okay, I think we're waiting for 10, 15 more people maybe. Okay, let me end the poll and I will show you the results. Okay, so what you can see here is mostly founders, which is what we assumed, and then smaller companies, which is again what we assumed. So okay, great. So let me jump right into it. So first lesson for me is all about getting your ICP and IBP right and focusing there. When I say ICP, ideal customer profile, so that's going to be the firmographic data, right? The types of companies that you're going after. And then the ideal buyer persona, and that's going to be more of the individual. Who are you trying to reach in that organization? And what I see, and when I speak about these things, every single thing here comes from my own experience operating, but every single one of these also comes from experience through the companies that I've been advising and investing in. What I see almost every single time I talk to a company, especially early stage, but even later stage, is that they're going after different types of companies, and different types of buyers. My experience at Vocalocity, at Cloud Sherpas, and BetterCloud was all the same. As soon as we diverted our focus outside of that target customer, it really made things, it slowed things down. It muddied a lot of the results. So for example, let's use a BetterCloud case. We said, hey, we're going to go after the IT persona. That's our persona. Director of IT, VP of IT. That was our persona. At some point, we said, you know what? We actually think that we want to go after the security buyer as well, the VP of security, the CISO. And that was one of those moments in time I can look back to and say that really slowed the growth curve for the company, because all of a sudden the messaging that you're delivering, it resonates with the head of IT. That messaging is very, very different than what's going to resonate with the CISO. The competitors that you're speaking about to the director of IT are very different than the competitors you're going to speak to about to the CISO. The features that this one needs versus that one's very different. Pricing models are different. And so often I see this. There's a company I'm working with, and they said, hey, we're going to sell to the sales, the head of sales, and we're going to sell to the head of marketing. That is just really two different personas. By the way, same goes for the size of companies. Excuse me. You see people who go after, I'm going to go after the 100-person, 200-person companies. But I got this one Fortune 100 company that's interested in my product. So I'm actually going to go pivot all the way over there and spend the energy there, because that could be a $5 million deal. Again, having been through this many times, it completely derails you. At Vocalocity, our target customer, again, I'm going to repeat, it was a cloud PBX product, a cloud phone system. Our target market was companies sub 10 employees, sub 8 employees even. Very, very, very small businesses. And we had that machine. We knew we were selling to the owner of the company, very small company. This is what they care about. They care about cost savings. And we went after that. Then one day we had a company come to us with 100 people. And we got so excited because they were going to pay us so much more than the average customer. One deal was going to cover our entire quarter. And we got so excited. We said, that's what we're going to go after. What did it do? It completely derailed the roadmap. It completely derailed the sales team. It completely derailed all that. And actually, it turned out that one company was actually just, we had gotten lucky. They happened not to need all the things that most of the bigger companies need. So a big thing for me is just pushing people to get the ideal customer profile, the ideal buyer persona correct. And it may feel small. It may feel very narrow. But what you'll see, I will bet it, because I've seen it myself. What you will see is you will see conversion rate go up, ASP go up, probably sales cycle go down, op creation go up, all of those because you're speaking to that narrow audience. Now, I know when you're a 10-person company, it can be hard to do this, a 20-person company, early stage, because you're trying to figure it all out. But my point is, choose something and go after that market to start, and try to at least keep some blinders on. And again, I acknowledge how hard that is, but try to keep blinders on to all these other distractions, because it will derail you. And it's hard. It's truly hard to service these different people, right? So that is my first one. I actually just had a conversation. I recorded my next episode for the podcast with a CEO who was serving both the Google Cloud ecosystem and the Microsoft Cloud ecosystem, and they actually decided at very large scale to sell the Microsoft Cloud business that was doing extremely well, to sell it, to focus on the Google one, and their growth rate increased, their revenue increased. And the reason was they were basically keeping 2 different sales teams, 2 different marketing machines, 2 different services machines, 2 different. So even though it was a great business and it was highly profitable and it was growing, it took away from this business that they actually felt had much higher growth potential. So that's my first lesson. Next one that I have had to remind myself many times in my career: really listen to your customers. And I'm not saying this like have the meeting with the customer and talk to them about how much the renewal is going to be and what features they need for the renewal. No, I'm saying like really listen to your customer. If you think about getting that ideal customer profile, the ideal buyer persona right, it's then going to those customers and really spending the time. And when I say this, I'm speaking to the founders, not send your salesperson to do it, your customer success person to do it, someone else. You go and spend the time with the customers, because what I have seen and experienced myself is this game of telephone that happens, right? Especially as a company gets bigger, you end up with this game of telephone where there's the CEO who's talking to someone, who's the VP of sales who's talking to the salesperson, who's then talking to the customer. And in this game of telephone, you end up losing a lot of the really important information and direct knowledge. And I had an experience where I had become so disconnected from the end customer that I was getting feature requests. We were prioritizing the roadmap, and I was prioritizing based on second and third hand information. And so I said, I'm going to go meet with 100 customers in 100 days. This is during the peak of COVID, so it was all done virtually, on Zoom. But I had 100 one-on-one meetings with the decision maker at our ideal customer profile type customers. 100 of these one-on-one meetings over 100 days. And I've been trying to think of an analogy to describe this, but when you start having that conversation and you have that direct link to the customer and you're really understanding what they need, it's like chiseling away, at like a sculpture, and it's starting to show itself. Every conversation made it clearer and clearer what this customer really needed. And I'll tell you exactly how I went into the conversation. The conversation was, hey, I'm the founder, CEO. I want to speak to you about, how we can be a good partner to you going forward. But I actually want to zoom out. And so I would start the conversation with, tell me your top priorities. Again, I'm speaking to a VP of IT in this case. Tell me your top priorities. And I would write them down. I would take notes. Okay, unrelated to my product, I just want to know your priorities. And they would tell me, this is peak COVID. They would say, employee experience. We need to give the employees the products that they need, the services that they need. Number 2 was automation so that we can actually scale the team. And number 3 was zero trust and security. And those 3 priorities, almost unanimous. I want to be careful to say it's unanimous, but out of 100, probably 90 people gave me the same priorities, which is very interesting. Again, you start to get a clear picture of the world that your customer is living in. Then my next question was, specifically for my product, where are the areas where you think we can help you? And started listening to that. Oh, okay, this particular project you have, this project that's coming up. And then after that was, okay, let's talk about where we're thinking about investing, and let me get your take on the next 6, 12, 18 months of investment from a product perspective and a company perspective. These conversations were so powerful. As soon as I finished those conversations, I took the learnings, I presented them back to the company. But more importantly, as we were doing roadmap design, featured prioritization, I had this firsthand knowledge of exactly, no one could tell me, no, the customer needs this. No, I spoke to 100. Like at that point, I know what the customer needs, and it made it much faster to make decisions, to move stuff around, to put budget in certain places. And I would actually argue, even at the size of 10 people, 15, 20, it is important to do this. And it's important to do this on an ongoing basis, because also you start to get little ideas. Oh, every 5 of them mentioned this term. Maybe we should start to wrap that into our marketing a little bit. So I think this is super powerful. And I really urge you to make the time to do this. So that's the second lesson. The third lesson, and by the way, I should say, as I go into this, some of these may seem super obvious. I have found for myself that even if they're obvious, you may forget to do them, or you may do them once and think that that's enough. And so I just want to share that these are not, they may not be blowing people's minds, but I think they are really critical to operating and running a business. So your top performers are force multipliers. And this is one where, similar to the customers, right? If you go, everyone on this webinar, I am sure, could tell me by name the top person at their company. I'm positive. Top 2 people at their company, the people who really move the needle. Understanding that group and understanding what makes them tick is just like with the customers, is super, super powerful. I did this actually, our head of people did this at one point, and she came back to me and she said, Dave, this person who's a top engineer, the only thing they need is a standing desk. I said, what do you mean? That's it? She said, the only thing they want is a standing desk. Another person, the only thing he wanted was 3 monitors so that he could basically wrap the monitors around himself. Another person wanted a quiet space to work because they were in the open space. Whatever it was, simple things that really made a massive difference, right? And these are really small things. But I then decided to meet with our top 50 performers. This is actually, after I did the 100 and 100, I met with our top 50 top performers at the company. And I asked them, same thing like the customers. I just asked, it was just a very open conversation. Tell me what motivates you. And I told people, I want stack rank, money, title, responsibility. And you know what was so interesting? Of course, everyone wants to get paid fairly, just to be clear. Everyone wants to get paid fairly. But actually, people did not, only one person, a salesperson, put money first, which was good. Other than that, the answers, every engineer, literally every engineer, their answer was, I want to solve the hardest problem that we have at the company. That was the answer. I want to solve the hardest problem that we have. Please, I can't get moved because I'm too good. So the leader doesn't want to let me go off the team, but I just want to go on that team and be given the hardest problem, because that's what motivates me, is working on hard problems. I had a customer success person. I'll never forget it. They said, all I care about right now in my career is title. I get paid enough. I care about title. I said, but why do you care? I just want to understand. And they said, the reason is because I care that my family and my friends see that I'm being successful and I'm moving up in the world and in my job, and I'm doing well. I said, so you're an account manager, and if we made you senior account manager, that would satisfy that? And they said, absolutely. And so we made them senior account manager. And honestly, they were so satisfied. No bonus, no pay raise, nothing. There was another person that said, all I want to do, like, love managing people and I love coaching people, and it's what I get satisfaction from. Then I would ask people, tell me, like, deep down, like, what is your goal? Where are you trying to get to? What is the goal for 5, 10, 15 years? Forget time. Like, where are you trying to get to? And when you get to those kinds of questions with these top performers, and they see that you're listening and responding in the areas that you can, and again, given the audience we have here, at a sub 20 person company, sub 50 person company, you can do quite a bit for people that's really not going to cost you that much, and you don't have a lot of politics and leveling of employees and all that stuff. And so you can do stuff, and that, when you motivate that group, it is just, it's crazy what those people can do. I think one really great top performer, the impact that one top performer has on everyone around them, it's worth doing anything you need to do to get that person to see, to be motivated, to see that you care about them, that you're recognizing them. So this one is one that I think those people, they really change the trajectory of your company. When I look back at every business I've been in, I can think of the 1 or 2 people that changed the trajectory of the company. And I probably could have given them more equity, more cash, more everything, and they would have paid for themselves 100 times over. So spend that time. Make sure you have those relationships. Make sure that they see what growth they can get if they continue to perform. So the next one, create a singular company-wide goal to hit critical milestones. Very often, in my own experience and what I've seen at companies that I work with, is that there are all these different goals that are set based on the department that someone is in, based on the region that they're in, based on whatever the case may be. There's all based on who their manager is. Even if the company says, oh, we're going after this, I've been guilty of this, then you have like 47 OKRs. And it's hard to actually like get a group of people to go after one single goal when there's all these competing priorities. They look at the OKRs and like, well, I got to go deliver this feature because in 6 months we have to deliver this. And then over here in sales, I have these 7 metrics and I have, I think we, in many cases, in my opinion, we over KPI everything. We over metric everything. And it starts sending people in all these different directions versus creating that single goal. And I'm not saying this for all cases and all time, but when there's like that mission critical moment, like life or death moment for the company, creating that goal, and I mean truly singular goal, and then directing everyone to that goal and saying all of your work is going to move us towards that goal. So I'll give you an example. One example was when we launched our product, originally BetterCloud product in the Google Apps marketplace, we wanted to get to 1 million users using the product. And the company was probably 15 people at the time, 12, 15 people. We put up like one of those thermometers that sticks to the wall, that's like a dry erase thing. We put it up there and we literally ticked off every day how many users, and the top of the thermometer was 1 million. And all we talked about was how do we get to 1 million users. That was it. And at that time, it was a free product. It was product-led growth, free product before we went to freemium. And that was our target. And when that became the target, it was amazing how everyone else, everyone in the company, small company, but everyone got super focused on that one goal. For example, one of the things we realized is the higher you were in the marketplace listings, the rankings, like the App Store, you get more installs. So we became singularly focused on how do we become number one in the marketplace, because that was going to drive the installs to get to 1 million users. And that became singular focus. That's literally all we did every day, was figure out how do we game the system? How do we figure out the marketplace, dynamics to figure out how we get to number one? For engineering, it was, these are the features that are most requested by people in this ecosystem. And if we just stack rank those features and do them one by one by one, we can go out to the market and say, we now solve problem number 2, problem number 3, problem number 4. And we became so singularly focused. And the amazing thing is when everyone's working against that, engineering, marketing, executives, and everyone's going towards it, you get this extra power, right? Everyone's rowing together, and it is truly amazing what you can do. And as I've been working with some companies recently, this is what I've been helping them do is, hey, what is that North Star, right? For some companies, maybe it's $1 million of ARR, right? I want to get to $1 million of ARR because that signifies the next step in my journey and maybe my fundraising. But it becomes, when you say 1 million of ARR and you share with the whole company and you actually give the day-to-day progress against that number, and you tell everyone, this is why that's the number. And this is how your job's going to tie to it. This is how your job is going to tie to it. It's pretty amazing what that does. Another time for us, I'll give you this quick story. We launched our new platform. We went from being a Google Apps management product to a SaaS management across many SaaS apps. And when we launched the product, we weren't getting traction. People were not. We spent $20 million building this product in 18 months, more than 18 months, and no one was buying it. And we knew we needed to get critical mass. We decided that critical mass was 100 customers because that's what VCs were telling us they needed to see in order to invest behind this. So we told the company it's 100. It's 100 customers in 9 months. And the only number that we talked about for 9 months was the 100 number. And every single decision we made, pricing, product, sales, marketing, came to how do we get 100 customers on the platform. And I'm telling you, even for me, I put the number out there. I wasn't sure if we even had the ability to hit it, but the company became super focused. And for example, people would come to me and say, Dave, the pricing is too complicated. I can't sell this to people. It's like, you need calculus to figure out the pricing. So we simplified the pricing almost overnight to do that. Someone said, hey, messaging is kind of confusing because we went from this to this and we didn't change our messaging. And so we spent 2 weeks redoing all the messaging of the company, again, with that being the goal. And when we hit that number, we celebrated like, we had just hit the lottery. And it was, it was a big deal. And so I really urge people to do this and try to stay away from, especially early. Oh, I'm going to have cascading OKRs and this and that. It's too much. It's too much. Most companies actually can't consume and do that much stuff. So the next one here, and by the way, I'll take questions at the end. So if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat, and I will take the questions at the end. So the next one is implementing user manuals. So I actually got this idea from a conference that I went to, a CEO conference that I went to many years ago. And since that day, which it must have been 2016, maybe it was almost 10 years ago. This is something that I have done with every company I've been a part of, and for every person. And I'm going to walk you through what a user manual is. So if you think about it, us as founders, CEOs, executives, leaders, we have all these different people that we work with, up, down, side to side. We have all these people that we work with. And I'm a different leader than any of you. You're a different leader than me. And the people who work with us or for us, maybe they try to, interact with you the way that they would with me, when in reality, we're different. And the user manual is basically a way to give a guide to those that you work with about how you operate. And so now when someone joins, here's my user manual. Here's how to work with me. You don't have to guess. I'm telling you what I like, what I don't like, how I operate, when I operate. Everyone in the organization, especially if you roll this out broadly, the first time we did this, and we did it at an all hands, every person at the end of the all hands immediately went to all of their team user manuals, every single person, and just spent like an hour reading all of that. And you could see people comparing notes and talking about it. And then the last one is, for yourself, it's kind of therapeutic in a lot of ways to write this stuff down, things that you feel and that you know about yourself, but maybe you've never put them down in writing. And when you put it down, you say, oh, that is why I'm frustrated with that person. That's why I'm frustrated with this, this situation. And so it's really powerful. And so what the conference that I was at, it was all about CEOs writing CEO user manuals. My view is actually that this needs to be done across an organization. And so the way that I did it, and the way that I've seen this done now at probably 100 companies, no exaggeration, is you as the CEO founder write your own manual. You then go to an all hands or a team meeting, depending on what level you are and how you want to do this. And you actually present to them your manual. Hey, this is who I am. And I'd like all of us to do this. And then you put it, for us, it was in a Google Drive folder, OneDrive folder, wherever, Dropbox folder, but somewhere where everyone can access everyone else's. And the companies that I've done it with, every new employee who joins the company, to this day, those companies, they still do the user manual as an onboarding exercise and have them read the user manuals of their team. Amazing, amazing. This thing is short. It's easy to do. I'm going to walk you through actually some pieces of mine. So one example of what I would have in my which I do have in my user manual, is email is how I work. Even though we have Slack and Discord and WhatsApp and text and everything, email is the way I operate. If you email me, and I think people who know me on this, like if you email me, I will get back to you. I try every morning when I wake up to get to inbox 0. And that for me is the best way to reach me. The reason this is in my user manual is that I would have people at the company who would say, hey, I Slacked you and you never responded. And it's not that I didn't want to respond. Slack and text for me, when I see the message and it just goes away and I forget to do unread and everything. Whereas my inbox is my to-do list. And so again, right or wrong, this is how I operate. when I told people this, a lot of people said, "Oh man, thank you for telling us because I thought you were ignoring me or didn't care about what I was slacking." I said, "No, you have to email me." Example. Another one. The way I am, I like to talk through things with my team, and I like to do that as, by the way, as much as I can, also to do it in person, on a whiteboard or whatever. And some people found that to be confusing because I was doing that, and I would say, "Oh, and then we should do this," and the person would walk out of the room and say, "Well, Dave said we should do this." Versus actually, it was a brainstorming session. I had to be clear with people. I like to talk through stuff. I like to throw out a bunch of ideas. And then I learned I have to clarify at the end, and I have to tell them what we've decided, but also they have to be okay with going with that flow. Again, an example, very real example. And then this is something where people would ask me, "What is it that you're looking for?" And I said, these are the attributes that I love. I love the work ethic, intelligence, creative problem solving. Like, these are the things that I appreciate. You know, for me, when I work with people like this, like, we just we get along. And so these are some examples that I'm pulling from my own user manual. And I recently did this actually with a very large ad agency for their entire leadership team. I moderated this, which was a fun experience. And when I asked people, at the end, does anyone have anything to share? And people started sharing, and they started sharing some actually stuff that I hadn't heard before. Things like, one person said, "Hey, in meetings, I really get offended when people are not eye to eye contact with me and they're checking their email or they're checking their phone. And that really frustrates me." And another person raised their hand and said, "Actually, I am frustrated when people think that because I'm looking at my computer, I'm not listening. It's actually that I'm taking notes." And the two of them were actually talking to each other. They had never had that conversation. It was amazing. When we did this at BetterCloud, we had our CFO who woke up 4:30 in the morning, did all of his work early in the morning, and then at the end of the day, he kind of shut down whatever time, 9:10. And his controller had the opposite schedule. She woke up later, but then worked till 1 or 2 in the morning. And they were frustrated with each other. But when they wrote it down in the user manual, all of a sudden they understood that they were just on different schedules, and they figured out how to work with that. So what I'm going to do today is I want everyone here to actually create their own user manual. So what I'd like you to do is, if you can, open up a Google Doc or a Microsoft Doc or Notes, or I'm going to give everyone a second here. Please open that up. I promise you this is going to be worth your energy. Please open that up, and put your name, user manual, put the date up there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lead us through 2 sets of questions. The first set of questions is going to be about us, right? The us. And then the next set of questions will be about working with us. So I'm going to move on to the next set of questions. So this is questions focused on how we interact with others. So last one, and then I'll get to the questions that are in the chat. This is an important one. As founders, as leaders, it is very easy to look at other companies from the outside and think that everything is perfect. It's very easy. Actually, if you just scroll LinkedIn, essentially every single thing you see is how amazing this company, and this company just raised this money, and they just hired this executive, and they just closed this deal. If you're on Instagram, it's like the same thing. You see people's personal lives and think, "Oh, wow, everything is perfect. They just go on vacation all the time, and they have this beautiful family, and everything's perfect. They never fight." The reality is, behind all of this, everyone is having issues, different issues, but everyone is having issues to some level. And I think it's important to remember that. Someone said to me, I was having a conversation with someone on my team, and they said, "Dave, remember, it looks very different from the inside out than it does outside in." And I want to remind people that, because I feel like it's something, especially in the world that we live in, we feel like we can't open up about that. And we don't have people to talk to about it, or if we say we're not crushing it, that means we're weak, or that, and I really want to share that. In all of my years, I've always felt this way, like, oh my God, it's only my companies and only the businesses I'm a part of. And then I spend time with dozens of companies, and you realize everyone is having issues. And so I love this, this I think to me represents this in its perfect way, right? Like, this is what we see all day, every day. This is what we see. And in reality, this is actually what is happening for most people. And this lesson, I just think is important as you go into your own teams and your own world. I think it's really important to remember that. So let me ask one more poll, and then I will get to the question. So I'm just curious, for my own sake, which of the lessons that we went through today, which one resonated with you the most? Okay, some good diversity here in the answers. We're waiting for a couple people, I think. Okay, let me see. Wow. Okay, it's spread out. Okay, so looks like the user manuals. I'm not too surprised. User manuals and the ideal customer profile. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, let me pull this up so you can, if you want to look at the doc, that would be great. Okay, let me check here. Okay, cool. So there's a couple questions here about kind of going after multiple stakeholders, going up market, and in terms of the ideal buyer persona. So a couple things. First of all, and I think it was said in the chat, I personally, I'm biased, but I would stay away from the really, really large enterprise companies to start. It is very hard to sell to those companies. Even if they show interest, even if they say we need this thing. I had a meeting with Bank of America. I'll never forget it. And they said, we love the product. We really need this. So we could deploy it across the whole bank, all this stuff. I said, okay, how long, do you think like the process is going to take? They said, oh, the security review, that usually takes like a year. And then usually it takes like, a year to actually go from that to contracting to paying. And then usually it takes another, 6 months to a year to roll it out. You don't have that time. We don't have that time. I am not saying you shouldn't sell to those companies at some point. I'm not saying that. But for the stage companies that are on this webinar today, I personally believe it's easier to start smaller and move your way up. You can always go up. You can always add features. You can always add expensive salespeople. You can always do very expensive marketing events. It's very hard to start there and come down market. It's really difficult. And so for me, right or wrong, I am very biased that getting to somewhere where you can have some velocity. And when I say velocity, I'm not saying you have to close the deals every, sales cycle is 30 days, but it shouldn't be 3 years, right? If it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, if you're selling a really high ASP product, but not 2 years, 3 years. So many things can go wrong in that period of time. And what I see a lot is closing that one enterprise account, that one bank does not mean you have product market fit. It means that you actually found one bank who needed what you had. You basically custom built it for them. They paid you a lot of money. That doesn't mean product market fit. If you have 10 mid-market companies, that's a very different story, right? With a same product that they all buy the same product. There's no customization. So that's my opinion. That's the first. The second is when it comes to multiple personas, again, you will always have multiple people involved in a buying decision. And again, unless you're talking about something that's product-led growth, $2,000 ASP, someone puts on their credit card, like things are going to have multiple people involved, but it's about knowing who is your person. Who's the person you're speaking to? Who's going to be that champion? Who's the person who really is the person who's going to take this and Sherpa it all the way through the process to buy the product. I think that when you try to make yourself relevant to all stakeholders, right? CFO, man, in today's world, CFO is probably involved in most buying decisions for software at this point. Trying to write your messaging to talk to the CFO, I wouldn't recommend that. To talk to procurement, even if they're involved, I wouldn't recommend that. Talking to the person who's really going to understand the product, understand the value that it delivers, and you may have to arm them, by the way, with messaging that they can take to the other parties. But I would say stay focused. Is there a PDF of the startup founder guide? So there is a PDF. You can find it on the LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn post. There's actually a PDF there that you can go grab. Okay, another question. This is a good one. Is easier to be an effective communicator when times are? It's easy to be an effective communicator when times are easy, but how do you do it during high stress? So what I took this approach, and I really believe in this, is making a decision that you're going to be transparent from the beginning or from early on or for whenever you make that decision, and then maintaining that transparency in good and bad, but training the company to understand that you're going to be transparent and you're trusting them with the ups and the downs. And it's actually very interesting, because if you can get the company to understand, we're a business, we're going to have ups, we're going to have downs, we're going to have high stress moments, we're going to have things that we're going to celebrate, but I'm going to be transparent with you throughout. Therefore, I'm not hiding anything. I'm actually coming to you as my team and telling you where the situation is and that I need your help in order to go and be successful. At the same time, it is normal to kind of to carry that stress with you and to bring that to the table. And what I found is stressing out and having everyone else stress out literally doesn't, that just kills you, kills your company. But having that stress and using that to motivate the team to say, hey, listen, let me show you the trend lines. We've come down on this. We need to do this. This is a really challenging moment, but here's where we are. And I need all of us to come together. If anyone has ideas, suggestions, I'm open to them. This, we need as a group to get through this period of time. And it is super critical. But the stress, when people look to you to see how they should react. I have 2 kids, 10 and 8. If you have kids, the kid falls. And if you're sitting there like, oh my God, are you okay? Let me clean off that tiny little scratch. Then the kid's crying. If the kid falls on their face and you're like, oh, you're fine. No big deal. Even though they're bleeding and everything else, very different reaction. Right. And I feel that, right? People look to you, especially as the founder, the CEO, and they say, how should I react to what's happening? And so it's important to remember that, because you can have a lot of power by doing it that way. So anyway, we're running out of time. I could probably talk about this stuff for hours. So if anyone wants to connect with me, you can connect on LinkedIn, and would love to talk more. And I really do hope that you took at least one thing away from today. I really hope so. And thank you very much. And Kira, thank you for organizing this.
Yep. Thank you so much, David. I just wanted to pop on really fast. Just a quick thank you, everyone, for joining us. David, if you just want to flip to the last slide there. Yeah, if you're a pre-seed or seed stage enterprise founder, always reach out to us at vc@workbench.com. And then we have a ton of tactical content on our blog, which I'll drop in chat. And yeah, just look out on our website for more tactical content, more events, and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much, David, and hope to see you guys either in person if you're in New York or on another webinar sometime soon. Okay, I'll close out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.